Howdy folks, so today we're going to talk about OP month 1 and 2 of the Q Continuum series. For Star Trek Attack Wing, I kind of want to delve into the packs a little bit. The format's going to be a little bit different, just because the prize ships are kind of separate episodes from the scenario episodes and the Q episodes themselves. The ships don't actually relate necessarily to a Q episode, which is a little bit weird, granted. And I kind of want to talk about those up separately, so maybe I'll do like a B-side to this video at a later date. But I really want to do the reveal too, so we're going to do that. I'm going to talk a little bit about the scenario, and I'm still going to show off cards out of the prize ship, as well as talk about the participation prizes, which I think are great, as always. I think anytime you can add some fun elements into it. Nothing is game-breaking, nothing is crazy. And I dig that because I'm not a super competitive player. If you're looking for more analysis on that, I'm sure there's other places on the internet you can find it. But for me, you're going to get me geeking out about the Q episodes and talking a little bit about how the game is again relating to the show. So we're going to go right into the intro music, and when we come back, we will start talking about OP month 1 and 2 of the Q Continuum series. Alright, so Encounter at Farpoint is the opening series month of the Q Continuum deal. As an episode, I hate the episode. I honestly think it's terrible. I think it's weak for a number of reasons, but I love this scenario itself. I love the mechanic of the scenario. I think that the cards that are used for the scenario and the actual active effects of the cards, the fact that there's 2 active at any time, is really interesting. I love that. I think that they're very fun. I think it doesn't mess up it messes up the game enough, but it doesn't actually mess it up the way that some of the Borg effects kind of messed up the game. I didn't like a lot of the Borg scenarios. Honestly, it was really hard to kind of get through some of those Borg scenarios because it didn't feel right for the game. It felt really weird. I'll probably talk about that in a future video, but these scenarios, particularly this scenario, because I've had a chance to play it a little bit more than the other 2 scenarios of the Q Continuum so far, I just thought it was fun. And it's, anytime you can inject that kind of fun whimsy into the game, I'm a huge fan, and it felt very Q-like. So, huge props to that. Love the effects. I flashed up the cards in terms of what they do and how basically you get 2 of them. You can read the scenario online. It's totally available for download. But what I also wanted to talk about was how Encounter at Farpoint as an episode was weak. And it's weak for a number of reasons. The acting isn't that great yet. The characters aren't well established. The writing hasn't found its feet. And Encounter at Farpoint Station is kind of the episode where I feel like they're trying to make a statement. I'm gonna be perfectly honest, all of season 1 Star Trek The Next Generation is them trying to find that voice, trying and feeling out where they can go and where they can't go, and it gets weird because of it. And I'm thinking about Naked Now, specifically, when I talk about weird. You will probably not see me. I'm gonna say it now, you'll probably not see an episode, OP event on the Naked Now. Maybe that's gonna happen. I would love to see what that would look like, because it would be hilarious, like your crew cards are all going crazy. But as an episode itself, it's not Star Trek Attack Wing enough. It's also just not very good. But in the same vein, Encounter at Farpoint, I feel like it just is lacking, and it's aching to be something more, and we get to see what it does become eventually, but it just isn't there yet. And I almost feel like, and you guys can tell me in the comments if I'm wrong or not, but I feel like they did this reboot of it for Voyager. I feel like the Voyager season premiere is like another kick at the can of Encounter at Farpoint. I feel like the whole storyline is very similar. It's similarly set. You have a very powerful being, sends you far away, does all this stuff, isn't necessarily judgy, but is kind of protective. It's very weird and philosophical, and the same kind of themes kind of prop up a little bit. I like that. I like that they kind of tried again, and they did it much more successfully with Voyager. I would argue that the attempt that they did with Voyager, after kind of reestablishing this universe and reestablishing this canon and having a better sense of self, Star Trek had a better sense of self when Voyager came out for sure than when TNG premiered. So you got to see that maturity come back again. So I like that. I like that, but at the same time, what the episode did give us, apart from bringing us the show back, is it introduced us to Q. And I kind of like this Q Continuum series, because it gives us a chance to revisit exactly what Q is and how he himself kind of evolves as a character throughout the show and throughout the series. Like, let's be honest, like, not just the series, but like multiple series, because you see John Delancey not just in TNG, but he also comes in DS9. He shows up again in Voyager, and it's a really lovely character art that you get to see arguably across multiple series, that there is no other character that has that. Like, I mean, sure, Chief O'Brien kind of has it, and Worf kind of has it, but, like, Q actually has one that, you know, is much more far-reaching, at least, in that respect. So, there you have it. And so, you've kind of seen the cards that come in the prize ship pack. The participation prize, I love. I love this evasive maneuver card. I think it's really interesting. Anytime you can mess up movement, I'm a huge fan of, obviously. So for me, if you don't have something that can, like, cloak, it's a great kind of way to go, whoop, I move laterally. And the lateral move for me, I feel like the lateral move in Star Trek Attack Wing is relatively underrated still, because of the Borg a little bit. I think it's come down in value because of the Borg. But when you have a lot of ships with 90-degree forward arcs, if you can get up close to them really fast and then move laterally and get out of their firing arc, it is really powerful. One of my favorite moves to do with Klingons is to actually go really close to them, anticipate a big move, wait for it, and then jump onto that big move, get really close up, right on their face, and then do that lateral move. Do that sensor echo. And you get to do that again with this evasive maneuver, but you also get to move forward a little bit. And again, that little bit of nudge forward and lateral movement, it really makes a difference against ships that have a 90-degree forward arc. So, I'm a real fan of this maneuver. The OP Month 2 scenario, Deja Q, I think it's probably one of my favorite Q episodes. I think it's really interesting. We actually talked about it on Star Trek Hour, which is an hour on Twitter that I run with Joe, who is the creator and brilliant mind behind Riker Googling, which if you haven't checked out already, you really should check out. It's basically the concept of it is it's Twitter. It's a Twitter account of what Riker's Google search history would look like if Google existed in Riker's time. It includes things like forgot self-destruct password and find my comm badge, and like all this other just really fun and kind of clowny kind of stuff, which you totally makes sense with Riker. And I love that. But we geek out about an episode of Star Trek every week. So we recently did Deja Q, and there's a really interesting discussion about the evolution of Q as a character throughout this episode, and his humility throughout it, and how there are interesting elements about, you know, him speckled throughout it. I don't necessarily think that, like, I love how the scenario actually specifically talks about this planet, and oh my gosh, there's crazy stuff going on, and Q Solutions like, yeah, change the gravitational constant of the universe, and blah, blah, blah. And yeah, it's great for that, and it's great to have that kind of little storyline encompassed on the table. You don't really necessarily see any of the other crazy effects like you do with the month 1 OP scenario, but as a scenario itself, it feels still very Q, and it brings us back to the episode of Deja Q, which is, it's just fun reason to watch the episode. It's a great episode. It's funny. It's like he shows up naked and he gets stuck in the brig and he gets hungry and he gets scared, and it's really interesting to kind of just see the exploration of that character in a more established environment. And when you contrast the episode, Farpoint with Deja Q, the character itself is so different. It's completely different. It's really, like, that's where you kind of start to see the charm of Q a little more, and you get to see why, you know, they kind of tolerate him, is because he is kind of charming, and he's kind of likable in that weird uncle, don't leave him with the kids sort of way. So that's kind of what the whole situation is in the Deja Q scenario. It's reflected in the scenario itself. I think it's very fun. I like having that sort of stuff. I really do also like playing on a board with a planet. It does slow down the game mechanics. What I realized with Star Trek Attack Wing, and again, if you have a different opinion about this, let me know in the comments. I find that the more terrain there is on the board, the more movement matters, but the slower the game is. There's more jockeying to try to find, try to basically get those firing arcs to destroy your enemy. And the victory conditions, the game is still so new that the victory conditions haven't exactly evolved yet to be a little bit better. There are some scenarios that have really great and interesting victory conditions that aren't necessarily as tightly tied into destroying your opponent. I'm thinking about, I think there was a Dominion War scenario that was the attack on AR-355, I want to say. That was really good. It was really interesting. I love the mechanic of like transporting down, troops and stuff and trying to control the planet and having that as a dynamic that was separate from the space battle that was going on, but is also very interesting and very important to winning. I liked that. I thought it was fun and interesting and cool. And I think that having those additional victory conditions helps the game go a little bit faster when you do have terrain on the board. Just with, like, even one planet, I feel like it adds another 20 to 50% longer to a game. So, there's that. There's also the participation prize for this pack, which is a damage, control kind of team, which is okay. It's an okay pack. There are better ways to mitigate damage. Let's face it. We all know this. So I'm okay with it. I'm not necessarily in love with the participation prize. I don't think that it's limited, but because they're phasing out some of the older participation prizes, I think seeing how that changes the dynamic and then adjusting for that with these new participation prizes will be interesting. I think that there will be some very interesting participation prizes in the future. I'm looking forward to talking to you about the participation prize for the OP Month 3 Q Continuum set, which will be coming up pretty soon, actually. So you can look forward to that. But in the meantime, let me know in the comments below what you think of the scenarios for this thing. I also, let me know if you're interested in having me talk specifically about the episodes for these prize packs, because I would totally do. I would love to talk about, some of these episodes and maybe kind of do that, but I'm not necessarily sure if people are interested in hearing me wax philosophically of how I think the prize ship for this, relates to this episode, because let's face it, most people won't get a prize ship themselves, so it's up to you. You let me know in the comments. That's it for me today. Thank you so much for watching. I'm gonna get my video edited up because I did promise the Star Trek Attack Wing group on Facebook that I would attempt to make a saucer section and battle bridge section Enterprise work. And my solution to that was an X-Acto knife and the attitude that you can fix anything with super glue. And if you've watched any of my videos, you kind of know that's the way I go about things. And so that video is still upcoming, and I'm still trying to figure out a way to make things work the way I want them to work. So it's still a bit of a work in progress, but I'll give you an update soon and kind of just, maybe I'll just show you what I've got so far. So yeah, thanks for watching, and I will see you soon. Ciao.